Fragments of Silicon. We promise not to charge you to share our airspace.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me, as always, our Galax and Petty fan. Right, let us get to the news. Petty, why don't you start us off this week?
Yes. So we had a interesting car failure this weekend. We were going to Sam's Club to pick up our order, and my mom went to, you know how you typically pull into a parking spot where you let your foot off the gas and kind of let it coast into the spot? She let her foot off the gas and it accelerated. We don't know what happened, but my mom had to veer her car to get up on it's like a mound or like some sort of like parking divider of some kind. But she had to get her car high centered to get
Something like that.
yeah, she had to get her car high centered to get the wheels off the ground, because whenever she took her foot off the gas, it would try and go full blast.
Even if you shifted into park?
Park it wouldn't go, but anytime it was in gear, be it drive or reverse, it was like she stood on the gas. So
Did you have to get a tow?
yes, we got it towed. We dropped it off at the dealership. They couldn't reproduce the issue, so we don't know what happened. It didn't happen again, and we showed them the dash cam footage, and they believe it wasn't mom, doing something stupid. It was because you can between our screams, you can kind of hear the engine didn't rev when it was accelerating. So that's one of those, it should be an impossible failure mode. So we don't know what happened. So they took a bunch of diagnostic tests, and they're going to send that off to Mitsubishi to have them, the engineering team, look through what the hell that was and see if they can figure out what's wrong. Also, since it was, clearly something that happened with the car, the local Mitsubishi dealer will pay the deductible for our insurance, so we can get the body damage repaired, because it was just, there's a crack to the bumper, and then there's some like undercarriage protective stuff that got damaged because it was high centered on a bush. So it's nothing major, but it's still, because the fault was the car messed up, the insurance, the dealership's going to take care of the deductible on that, which that's fine. But yeah, that was not a fun experience, especially because people who didn't know what was going on was sitting there pointing and laughing at, the car, when, literally we could have killed somebody if mom didn't get that thing high centered. So yeah, that's, some people are assholes. And also we have issues with the roof leaking again. So we're going to see.
The house, not the car.
Yes, the house roof. We had a heavy rainstorm, and we are having water ingress again. So we're going to see about getting some more silicone and probably some like aluminum tape or something to make sure there are no leaks. So that's going to be hopefully this weekend plan. If they're supposed to be rain tomorrow, I think, but then it should dry out. So, that's going to be. I want to say fun, but it's not going to be fun. It's the opposite of fun. And I think that's it for me, really.
Well, Galax, it's your go.
Looks like beginning of next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going to be going with my family down to visit my sister in Rhode Island and see my aunt and uncle's new house down there, I guess.
Is this just like a family visit type thing, or does this have to do with the funeral? I don't remember. Like,
this is just a family visit, but I'm doing it partially as practice for the funeral.
fair enough.
Because
I figured that was. I remember that was
really
coming soon.
That's in May.
Ah.
And I'm probably going to end up taking the whole week for that. We'll see. It turns out I have more vacation time than I thought I did, so I need to use more of it.
Oh, is your work one of those use it or lose it type places?
Use it or lose most of it.
Ah. Because I know, like...
Which, on the other hand, that means the reason it's like that is because I do get a good amount.
Yeah, I remember when my mom worked at the hospital because of her first shoulder injury, she had to take a mandatory 2 weeks off per quarter just because it was a repetitive strain injury.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what that is. And on account of that and preparing for the other thing, I just put in an order for my laptop that I'm going to be getting today. I ended up getting a pretty good one because my parents said they'd help pay for it enough that I could afford a good one. I was going to get it delivered, but since if I got it delivered, it would be getting here while we were away.
Yeah.
I just said it, and it needs to be signed for because it's an invaluable thing. I just set it to be picked up in store because I don't feel like trying to chase it down through the mail.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Let's see. I don't think I have any significant video game news aside from stuff that I'm looking forward to, and that is going to be the bulk of the show today, so.
Indeed.
Right.
I think that's probably all I got.
Guess it's my go. Let's see. My news for the week is pretty much zeroed in on the new laptop. I'm looking at getting an HP that Petty linked. Seems to have the right combination of price, newness, and specs. So looks like I'm going to be ordering that on Saturday. And then it'll should arrive on Sunday, and then I'll probably be spending the next week setting it up.
Yeah.
I'm not joking about that either.
I am very much aware of how new PC setup works. That's why I hold off so long on doing it.
Right.
And at least you don't have the jank of trying to also figure out your stream setup as well.
I'm like, that's true, but on the other hand, I have to re-download my Steam library, which is laborious. I guess I should say a portion because I'm not even sure a 4 terabyte hard drive would be able to contain it all.
Yeah, I've always just downloaded what I'm currently playing because there are a lot of games, be it for the show or just that I've gotten that I'm done with and just never going to play anymore. So why do they stay on the hard drive?
I do that, but I also have a large library, so if I want to play something, it's there. I don't have to spend a couple hours downloading it.
I guess. I mean, it's also one of those I have a much faster internet connection, so
It's not I'm not sure if it's internet connection. Yeah, I guess we'll see with the new computer.
yeah.
Like,
Because you're going to be, I think you just had a SATA SSD in this one. You're going to be should be moving to an M.2 drive. So you will get a speed boost that way, and then also just a more powerful computer.
Yeah. I mean, well, just in terms of RAM, it's like literal orders of magnitude more powerful. You know,
I mean,
eight
RAM
gigs versus 16.
more RAM is only helpful if you need it.
Well, it's more the going from 8 gigs of RAM to 64. That that's a jump.
Yeah.
And it looks like it has a fairly new Ryzen processor.
Yes, because the 12th, 13th, and 14th gen Intels suck. And 13 and 14 are literally killing themselves. So
yeah. So yeah. And I've got everything worked out there. Just a matter of ordering the thing and getting it.
Yep.
Let's see. Doctor's appointment tomorrow. Fairly routine checkup stuff. Like, though it's probably nearing the time to, not this visit, but the next time I see the doctor, I'll have to, get a blood test in between.
Fun.
Not really. In fact, I fucking hate them. I don't like being jabbed by pointy pieces of metal.
I've grown desensitized to them.
Right. Like, I remember a few years ago when I went to the hospital, I experienced that. I do not wish to experience that again. Anyway. And yeah, that's about all my news this week. Gaming-wise, still playing through The Longest Journey. That may not survive the jump to the new PC because I think it's one of the games without cloud saves.
I mean, granted, a flash drive can fix that problem real easy.
Yeah, I was about to say, now, granted, I could probably dig into the files and grab the save files and transfer, but it's like, how much am I really wanting to do that?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of effort, and I'm like, eh. Anyway, but we should move on to the main topic for tonight. So, originally we were going to be talking about both Nintendo Directs that occurred this past week, but, given how the conversation has rolled throughout this day about the Nintendo Switch 2, we're probably going to hone in much more on not just what was revealed at the Direct, but because the first
Where'd
thing.
You go, Adam?
You blipped out for a second.
Okay.
Just after at the Direct, you just kind of trailed off.
That was weird. Okay. Well, the first thing we need to address is something that wasn't at the Direct: the price.
Yeah.
Are you still here?
Yes. They were. It's not like they were hiding it. It's on their site and stuff, but it is probably higher than.
It was a notable absence during the Direct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which tells me that. Now, granted, this is all inference, but okay, you had the price, but why didn't you announce the price when all of the eyeballs are on it?
Mm-hmm.
It's because you were worried about that price.
Mm-hmm.
And not without cause either.
You say that, but it's still in line for the portable handheld market now. It is, for those of you at home, it is $450 USD.
I saw a thing that actually pointed out that adjusted for inflation, that's about the same as the last couple things. It's just that is a large number that sounds unpleasant to people.
Yes. But when I was looking at like
and the accessories and other things are also equally more expensive, and a lot of people are not super thrilled about that.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's also clocking in at 395 pounds, or 469 euros.
Yeah, people not in the U.S. are getting even more shellacked over this. And interestingly,
the
in
Canadian
Japan,
the
they
Canadian
are selling.
price is really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
in Japan, sorry.
It's like 690 Canadian dollars to buy a Switch 2 or something like that.
Which is going to be real rough if the Canadian dollar continues to get stronger against the American dollar. In Japan, they are selling a significantly cheaper version, but that version only accepts Japanese language games and Japanese region Nintendo accounts, apparently.
Yes, it's basically region locked to JP
it's not
only.
literally region locking, it's direct. It's only designed to accept those things. Probably as an attempt to protect the weak yen, and also while preventing overseas people from,
scalping
buying the cheaper one.
Yeah.
And that one is what? It's around 40,000 yen, I think. Which would be about $400, but it isn't.
It's close enough approximation.
Because the yen is weak, so it's actually around like 350 or something.
Yeah.
Now, I personally are of two minds about the price here. I get what Petty is saying, but I also know what Nintendo would at least position the original Nintendo Switch as, and it was very much in line with their withered strategy. If you don't know what that is, it's basically taking a bunch of not just like off the shelf tech, but old off the shelf tech and putting it into a device because it's cheap.
The Tegra processor they were using in the original Switch is from about 2012, 2013.
Right. So even in 2017, that was fairly cheap stuff to use. And you can't say that Nintendo didn't wring every last drop out of that thing either. And then some. So, but Nintendo is trying to market this as a mass market device, as opposed to the Steam Deck, which is much more enthusiast tech. So they may run into problems at that price point. I mean, and this is on top of the tariffs question. Since we don't know how that's going to tilt everything,
right?
But that's not the big bone of contention I've been seeing going around. It's the games.
Yes, because shortly after people started accepting $70 games, we're started getting some, not all of them, but some of the major first-party ones, at least, or major ones being $80, which, unsurprising with the rate of inflation going on, but it's never good to be the first one to be seen raising your prices.
I understand it, but at the same time, it's going to start pricing like younger kids out of the market.
I'm like, I don't understand it, or rather, I don't understand how Nintendo went about the logic of doing this.
Especially because currently the two Go ahead, Adam. Yep.
Yeah, because the flagship title, the launch showcase, Mario Kart World, is going to be $80. And can you tell me what the fuck is $80 about that game?
Yeah. Like, I get it. It's cool, but we've also had done like the open world racing type games in the Forza Horizon games that were $60, and they had
Right.
actual car models.
I mean, hell, you can go back to the Xbox 360 era and pull out big ass open world racing games like
Fucking one of my favorite games of all time, Burnout Paradise.
Or Codemasters Fuel comes to mind, which boasted like the biggest virtual game map at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a Tears of the Kingdom situation where they had been working like 5 years, their top talent, and you could see where the money went.
We don't know how long they've been working on this is the problem.
Yeah. And I'll definitely say Mario Kart World looks more advanced than Mario Kart 8, but it's like
that was also built off of a Wii U game.
Mm-hmm. Like and it's a lot. Some of the stuff is more subtle, like the draw distance and the animations look better. It's just expect.
Obviously, it's worth at least $5 to be able to play as a cow riding a radio. No, I'm kidding.
Now, I've seen some other speculation about why Nintendo has decided to list Mario Kart World as $80, and that might be to incentivize the bundle.
Yep.
And honestly, I agree.
Because with the bundle, it's basically it's about what, 500, and making
it's
500.
It's 500 total for the system with a digital copy installed of Mario Kart. Which
is it installed or is it a code? I don't remember how Nintendo wants to do this.
Digital games somewhat cheaper, which they have historically. I know most places do this, but Nintendo has not always.
This is something kind of glossed over, but the digital games are what's going to be $80. The box games are going to be $90.
Right. Or 70, 80.
Yeah.
With the really high-end stuff. But
we don't know what exactly is going to be in that price bracket. Is it just going to be first-party Nintendo or just AAA games in general?
Okay, no, we actually do have more insight on this, if I can find the pricing, because different games have different prices, and not even first-party titles are consistent, even on the, let's say, AAA level, because, we've mentioned a few times here that Mario Kart World is going to be $80. The other big AAA game that they are going to have ready, not at launch but near launch. July is just a month out from where Nintendo's launching the Switch 2, and that's Donkey Kong Bonanza. Donkey Kong Bonanza is being launched at $70. So there's a $10 difference right there, and we don't know why.
Yeah.
And it goes further. Street Fighter 6 Fighters Edition is going to be $60. Bravely Default is going to be $40. Yeah.
So they're going for radical price point anarchy, with the solution being that everyone can charge however much they want for whatever.
That totally worked back in the day, having flashbacks to 85.
Oh, God. Honestly, the prices remind me of the Nintendo 64 era.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. Nobody wanted to return to $80 goddamn carts.
Yeah.
And yes,
I
I
mean,
know
those I understand because they had special hardware in them. These are literally just repinned SD cards.
it gets worse somehow because okay, first of all, Nintendo's unleashing this new key card thing, which seems to be a new form of DRM or something. I
The
really
key
didn't
card thing, okay. The key card thing is not a DRM thing. It's something that people have been doing. And they have said, hey, when we do this, we're going to label it and mark it clearly so that you can tell. It's the thing where when you buy a quote-unquote physical copy of a game, it's really just a download for the game. And I think you either
It's a
need
CD
to
key in a
have the thing
box.
in to install it, or I don't know if you still need to have the key card in to play the game or not. But it's that same thing that has been being done for a while, and they're saying that when we do this, it's going to have a mark on the box that says that this is a download for the whole thing. And some people are theorizing, which admittedly it's just a theory, that this is more likely to be done for third-party games that are too fucking big for the form factor than it is
I don't think we're getting
for
a
their
cart
main
upgrade.
ones.
They're still using like regular Switch, like size carts. We're not getting the like 128 gig.
They didn't specify. They said that it has faster data reading speed, which means they didn't say it has a bigger data size.
Yeah.
But they could potentially upgrade that later anyway.
Yeah.
I am slightly concerned about the micro USB Express cards that they're using because
micro SD card express.
Micro SD card Express, because while that is a faster thing and it's a newer, more advanced thing, my understanding is that the size of those has not quite come up to the size of the previous ones, and I think the biggest size is still around 256 gigs.
I have not looked into that, mostly because I didn't have anything at the time that supported it. So it's possible that they also could be upgrading those sizes as well. And we also need to see how SD card swap handles with the Switch, because I know with the Switch 1, it didn't like having the SD card swapped while it was on, so you had to turn it completely off, pull your card out, put the new one in, turn the Switch on. Hopefully they make them hot swappable, and that would help considerably.
That would be nice. There is also the system transfer factor that they have stated that they're doing. And maybe that thing with digital game cards might make it easier to swap things around too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's another element that we haven't covered here in terms of the pricing, and it ties into the Switch 1, and that is the Switch 2 editions of games.
God damn it, Nintendo. Why?
Because it's Nintendo.
I know. Literally, Xbox and Sony are just giving us free updates for our compatible games. At worst, you pay $10 for the updated version.
I've heard compared to the yen thing, going based on the yen values of some of them, it's likely to be between $10 and $20.
Well,
and it's depending on how much
it's worth
the upgrade is worth.
No, because it depends on the game. We actually we actually do have pricing details on this now.
Oh, I missed those.
Yeah, like I said, there was actually quite a bit in the press materials that weren't in the Nintendo Direct, or at least not detailed, because they did say you would have to pay a price.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't elaborate on that. Because some Nintendo Switch 2 editions are going to be same price as usual. Some are going to be increased $10 because of the new content. That's what's happening with Mario Party.
Mario Party, Zelda 1 and or Breath of the Wild, and Tears
No,
of the Kingdom.
not Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom.
Both. They're both getting Switch 2 ports together. It's
Well,
from,
yeah.
as I
But
understood, it's a combo pack.
well, no. It's weird. Breath of the Wild is not getting a price increase. Tears of the Kingdom is, and we don't know why.
They're separating them?
Like, look, I told you this shit was getting complicated.
Jesus Christ, Nintendo. This could have been the easiest way to make a definitive edition of that, and you fucking screwed the pooch.
I was looking at the upgrade packages because that's more relevant to me, who already has most of these games that he want to upgrade.
Yeah. But the other enhanced visual upgrades seem to be free right now.
They're mostly charging for ones that have actual feature increases. Although weirdly, the Zelda ones, the main feature increases are integration with a web app,
a phone app, yeah, and it's
phone app that isn't good, that's only going to be available for the upgraded versions, with such features as it'll tell you where you can go to get stuff, and it has more audio only memories apparently, where you can go to a place,
stuff that's going to be on YouTube, but
within phone will read out a thing
within 3 hours of being available, and GameFAQs is free.
And also there's apparently there's a system in the app where you can send items between your games or something.
I thought something had to do with the amiibos,
with QR codes. I don't know.
Oh, and there's a workaround by all this bullshit, which means this might be another incentivization factor. Because if you are subscribed to the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass,
you get some of those for free. You get the Breath of the Wild one for free, I believe.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom one? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like those because it stops when you stop being subscribed.
Yeah.
Not even that I would plan to stop being subscribed, but in case I had to.
Right.
They are giving some more reason to upgrade to the Plus Expansion Pass version, though.
But is that a segue to talk about the GameCube stuff?
Well,
when Adam wants to.
Yeah, first, we're not done with this pricing shit because this is just a fucking mess.
A mess might be the understatement, bro.
I think the summary of it is that they're not having fixed prices for these things, and that's going to be obnoxious.
It's going to be a problem.
Right. Because, now, mind you, you don't have to pay $80 for any game, not even, Mario Kart World, because, well, A, they're incentivizing you to go buy the bundle where it's only $50. But also the digital versions are $10 less. It's you're basically paying Switch tax for the for having a card that may not even have the fucking game on it.
We'll have to see how widespread that is.
Right, but this was a problem with the Switch 1 as well, where not all of the game, or if it was a pack like Resident Evil Revelations or something like that, where only one thing was on the card and everything else had to be downloaded, so the whole preservation argument did not apply. Because you're not able to preserve Resident Evil Revelations 2 because it's not available on the cartridge.
And once you put it in, it will immediately get you the newest version. You can't switch game versions on the Switch.
So, that's another huge question mark here. But I suppose since you brought it up, we should get into the NSO GameCube stuff. Probably the least surprising card they put down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's significant competition for the most, so.
Right, but I'm talking about in terms of expected features that were rumored,
Right.
and were happening. Like, I don't think anyone was, went wild when Nintendo announced that GameCube games are finally going to be available on a modern system.
Fun
I know
fact,
some people
Switch
did.
Homebrew has gotten GameCube games working on the original Switch.
But that's not the point here.
I definitely heard some cheers from my online circle regarding specifically Pokemon Coliseum and SD being in there, even though they probably won't have any Pokemon Home integration.
They should. The Virtual Console ones on 3DS do.
The Switch classic Pokemon games don't, I
They
believe.
don't? Where the hell's my Switch at? 1 second. You all keep talking. I'm going to do some live research.
Okay, well, he's figuring out that
It's because it's accessed from an app inside an app, probably.
anyway. So yeah, in terms of what they announced, I'd say a fairly typical, maybe safe collection of games. I know, like the one that surprised people by not showing was Super Smash Brothers Melee. I'm like, and people got hyperbolic about it, if I'm being honest, because then they're like, oh no, maybe Nintendo's never going to add, Melee. Like,
Melee's
people,
coming.
yeah, calm down. Like Melee, okay, it's not in the initial list.
There might be some licensing issues because of some of the fucking trophies.
Ironically, with Melee, there should be no issues. At least not the issues that like Brawl would, because
it doesn't have Solid Snake, but it does have trophies featuring third-party games.
Yeah, that might be the issue, is they might need to remove those.
It's not trophies featuring third-party games; it's second-party. That is to say, you do have stuff from HAL, Creatures, Game Freak, close Nintendo partners that are in the mix here as well, but maybe it's a problem with Cubivore. I couldn't tell you exactly, but to launch, Nintendo has picked a trio of games. In Wind Waker, which I know upset people, because people want the HD version, and this is going to be the GameCube version. Though apparently there will be enhanced visuals. They didn't exactly elaborate how they were going to be enhanced, which makes me worry that's going to be AI upscaling.
Well, some of them are getting multiplayer that didn't or online multiplayer.
Right. Well, that's kind of an inherent feature with the Nintendo Switch Online stuff. But, they're going with the Wind Waker, F-Zero GX, which is probably the most interesting one of the bunch, because that's the one that's going to have online multiplayer. Mm-hmm. Up to 4 players, no less. And, it's F-Zero GX, so it's probably going to be fucking blistering, even, with 4 players. Soul Calibur 2 is the token third-party representative here.
What do you mean? It's totally a Zelda game.
Well, yeah, Link's here as well, but it's a better representative from the third-party coalition than, say, Winback was when the Nintendo 64 segment of NSO launched. That's not just because Soul Calibur is a higher value brand. It's also, Soul Calibur 2 is actually, a very good game, as opposed to a middling curio kind of deal. And, yeah, also among the roster of the initial announcements are Chibi Robo, Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance, Luigi's Mansion, Pokemon Coliseum, Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness, Super Mario Strikers, and Super Mario Sunshine. Probably the biggest surprises here are Strikers and Chibi Robo showing up.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, not that off the wall. It's not like even Chibi Robo is not as off the wall as if Nintendo had announced Odama as the quirky representative. Thankfully, Chibi Robo is a better game. In my estimation. Still, it's a solid but unspectacular lineup for the GameCube.
Mm-hmm.
At least in terms of the wow factor. But in terms of quality, very high. Arguably the highest. And that could also run up against another problem, because these are GameCube games.
Mm-hmm.
Like The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. This isn't a game that is meant to last, say, 6 minutes to 6 hours. It's more 20 to 40 hours. This is a big ass game that they're offering for free with a subscription. And, that could eat into their mainline business a bit. I honestly don't know. Anyway. So, Petty, did you find the thing you were looking for?
The best I can find is the 3DS games were compatible with Bank, which then can be sent to home.
Yeah. Pokemon Stadium on the Switch Online.
Okay, that involves having
Right, that's what I was comparing it to.
Yeah, that one I can't see because I don't have that.
It has no home compatibility.
Mm.
People were making a rather big deal about how stupid this is. Seeing as how the game, especially Stadium 2, is literally barely playable in the main modes.
Because you can't have your Pokemon.
No, because the rental Pokemon suck.
Yeah, because you can't have your Pokemon. You have to use rentals.
All right. Anyway, so we should track back to the specs a bit. Because, Nintendo definitely went into a fair amount of detail about what is going on under the hood with the Nintendo Switch 2.
Mm-hmm.
Among other things.
It has more onboard memory.
Well, I'm glad the Joy-Cons aren't made for someone who has the hands of a raccoon.
And they explained how the magnets work. Apparently,
tell me I'm wrong, Adam.
No, no, they got people with, regular hands to use.
Humans.
Because they explained how the magnet attachment works. Apparently, the side shoulder buttons are metal.
I'm still concerned about the protrusion on the side.
It doesn't look as bad the more angles I see it from. But yes, it's
they
still
showed somebody you can't pull them apart, but not flexing in. I know sometimes when I get into something, I kind of flex in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I can just see that going kersnap.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
But, there was also a lot of comparing the Switch 2 to the Switch 1. The Switch 2 is bigger, which is actually going to make it a problem compatibility-wise with certain games, some of the Toy-Cons are too big to use in
it's the
Labo.
Same thickness, though, at least. So you can still charge it on your old dock.
And that's not the only problem they're going to have with Toy-Cons. It also doesn't have the random IR camera that was used significantly in those and used significantly in Ring Fit Adventure.
Yep.
And a few other things. In fairness, they traded that out for having a built-in microphone, which I will take.
And you can use your Joy-Cons as mice.
Yeah. Also, and this is handy for listed in the official specs, but not detailed at the Nintendo Direct, are things like battery life. They are estimating approximately 2 to 6.5 hours, depending on the game.
On battery?
That's what they're saying here. I got the spec sheet.
That's pathetic.
Yeah, I will not be at all surprised when in a couple of years they release a Switch 2 OLED with better battery life and
anyway,
brighter screen.
They even have the internal battery listed here as a lithium-ion battery at 5220 mAh.
Milliamp hours.
Okay. So, do you know what that means, Petty? In terms of
that's literally a phone battery. That is a battery for a mid-sized phone like mine.
Which sounds about right for Nintendo. And charging time is going to be approximately 3 hours while the system is in sleep mode.
So it takes longer to charge the fucking thing than you can drain it. Hilarious.
Possibly. Like I said, the battery life here has an asterisk. These are rough estimates. The battery life will depend on the games you play. So it sounds
luckily,
like,
I don't usually play mine unplugged. For those who do, it'll be a bit of a pain.
Usually, when I go out, it's typically to the big city, and that's a 2-hour round trip right there. I'm going to need to plug the damn thing in if I want to play anything.
Well, I think
the bus doesn't have a plug-in.
I don't ride the bus, personal car. I just sit in the back seat.
Oh,
yeah.
Your car doesn't have an inverter.
I think the 2-hour thing is maybe like you're playing at the biggest AAA stuff at maximum settings or something like that. Like
we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's like
it's not a good first look though.
No, I've heard other people say that this is slightly worse than the original Switch.
Very much so.
So I think we need some real-time testing here. But what we really got to get to is something that Nintendo was inordinately proud of. Certainly took a big chunk of time to dedicating to explaining to people what Discord chat is.
I'm sorry. In fairness, it's Discord chat built in on the system in a pretty good way, it looked like.
For the most part, I have some concerns with the camera thing. They need to have it friends only.
They said they did they said with friends. They did not specify that it is friends only. It looks like it has to be done intentionally with your friends.
Yeah,
on a system level rather than being drop in on the game level.
Yeah, this is the inventor of friend codes we're talking about here.
I'm aware, but we've also had Nintendo have massively over trusting their user base before, and it.
Right.
I'm aware what happened on the 3DS.
I personally am quite certain that it will be friend codes only, although I don't have proof.
I'm also remembering Flipnote, so you can see my trepidation.
Right. But in terms of, this is quite similar to a few very forgotten Nintendo features from consoles of long ago. And that is Wii Speak. Anyone remember this thing?
Yeah, I remember the Wii U's had voice or had video calls.
Also, yes. I'm hoping the camera is completely optional for
it is.
It is. You will be locked out of some mini games because I believe some are camera required
for the Mario Party specifically, which I probably won't even get.
Yeah. Oh right, we forgot to talk about the screen because the screen is one of the most important things here.
1080p HDR, baby.
HDR10.
Oh, they actually released the HDR spec. They just mentioned HDR.
Well, so they are actually approximately up to industry standard now.
Yeah, once again, it's helpful when you look at the official specs.
I mean, it's still worse than my phone, but I'll take it.
Let me read through this. Okay, the screen, capacitive touchscreen, 7.9-inch wide color gamut LCD screen. Yeah, it's LCD. Yeah, no OLED right now. Not even regular LED. 1080p 920 by 1080p pixels, so full HD, what we call.
Yep.
HDR10 support, and the biggest surprise was VRR up to 120 megahertz.
Oh, variable refresh rate? Those actual mad lads.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things that they touted in the Direct. You're going to be able to get up to 120 frames per second. So that's a pretty significant fluidity jump.
Mm-hmm.
Also, considering that the original Switch was routinely targeting under 60.
Right. Also, in terms like the CPU is a custom processor made by NVIDIA. We don't know if it's Tegra or not.
Probably one of the offshoots of Tegra, because Tegra died a long time ago. I'm actually shocked they had enough Tegra chips laying around to complete Switch orders near the end.
Well, they manufactured more because
fair enough, but you know.
Yeah. Anyway, the max resolution can be outputted at 3840 by 2160 4K resolution. I know it's like not actual 4K. Yeah.
But we can 4K go into this, 4K. But let's not.
At 60 frames per second in TV mode.
Yeah, fine.
You know, so
I wasn't expecting 4K 120 on the Switch too. I think anyone who was is daydreaming.
Well, once again, Nintendo wants to have this thing somewhat affordable.
Yeah.
Because if we're talking those specs, then we're talking like premium iPhones.
Also, to have it not catch on fire, they notably put a fan in the dock this time, suggesting that it's going to run somewhat hot.
The PS5 Pro can't even do 4K 120.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, people who were expecting the Switch 2 to do that were either daydreaming or just on some shit.
Yeah. And now we have to address the main gimmick that Nintendo's going for this go around. And that's the mouse-like functionality, or the mouse mode that you can do with the Joy-Con 2s.
I have concerns.
Why?
Where are you gonna unless you have a coffee table, where the fuck are you gonna use the mouse?
They actually answered that question. The gyroscope.
I've tried that before back in the early 2000s, and oh god, never again.
Well, that's what Nintendo is saying. Like, you can use the mouse look in tandem with the gyroscopes.
I don't think that means they're not using the mouse look. And they for example, are the port of Civilization 7 is going to be a good test case for using the mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's going to be it's not going to be the best thing to try to use in portable mode, but if you're playing on tabletop mode, or if you have also, you never know. These days they make mouses with optical sensors and shit that you can use on like the arm of a couch or something if you want to. Admittedly, not with the greatest range of motion, but because it's the arm of a couch. We don't need perfectly flat surfaces for mouse to work anymore.
Yeah.
If I may take a minute.
All right.
One of the game that it looks like that they designed this primarily, like the idea they had for this was primarily as so we have a mouse functionality with some gyro stuff in there. what kind of game can we do with that? And it sounds like they came up with the idea of a wheelchair basketball game, which is pretty cool for someone who works in independent living. I know
Yeah.
wheelchair
It's cool.
sports are
Some of the
actually
jokes people
fairly
have been making
popular.
about it makes you want to just punch the internet.
Huh? Why?
Very, very ableist jokes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not surprised there's some of that, but it looks good. I ran it by my dad. He says that it looks pretty interesting that they're doing that, and I did want to. We did have some concerns about how playable this will be for people who actually have disabilities, particularly wheelchair basketball as a sport is more playable than you might think to people who have gross arm control but have issues with with their hands.
Yeah.
So it might be good if they make some like adapters for the Joy-Cons for people who can't move their fingers as well, but we'll see.
On that token, I'm going to assume that wheelchair basketball doesn't involve a lot of side ramps that you can bank off of.
They don't have side ramps, but you'd be surprised at how athletic some of those guys are.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm doubting. I'm just talking about some of the stuff we saw in the game you're talking about is Drag and Drive.
Yes. They don't have ramp. They don't have like quarter pipe ramps around the edge of the thing. I can't promise they never have dunks.
We were talking about the battery. For reference, my Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery.
Honestly, on the battery life, I'd wait for the likes of Digital Foundry or in Gaming Nexus or
I'm just talking about battery size. They're literally using a phone battery.
Oh, yeah.
The battery is not good. Yes.
Once again, let's wait and see on that front. Like, to see how bad or maybe not bad it is. Anyway, like I said, we still got a lot of stuff to get through. Because we barely talked about the games. And, some of them are, Mario Kart World, where, it's another Mario Kart. Only now they're going open world. And it looks like the big gimmick here is going to be parkour.
Parkour and being able to drive to the next course.
Yeah, the main note I had for that game in my thing, aside from the open world, is rail grinding in my go-karts. I guess it's more likely than I would have thought.
Right. And basically it's turning it into Mario Kart Horizon. Like, it's a weirdly classically open world racing for, Mario Kart, which tends to be, kart racing. So, like, it's just it's a bit of a weird mix of, actual racing and, fantasy Mario Kart shit.
Here's hoping we actually get proper driving controls instead of kart racing controls as an option.
Oh, with the chat, they did also announce Game Share, which could be fun depending on how many games they allow you to do it with.
I need to step away to use the restroom real quick.
Like I said, there is, there was a lot packed into this hour.
The Switch 2 Tour definitely should be a free pre-installed thing.
Yeah, I don't
even if it's only $10, it's weird to ask people to pay extra and download your System Technical Showcase software.
It's downright miserly, especially since, like Nintendo has previously provided this shit for free.
This is and more specifically, the direct parallel is this is an Astro's Playroom.
I'd say Face Raiders on the 3DS.
Somewhere between those.
Well, more like Nintendo included a whole bunch of software to show off the 3D capabilities and the AR capabilities. All of the fucking capabilities of the 3DS. Like, so they absolutely could have pre-built this into the system, which may speak to how big this thing is. Like,
yeah, we'll have to see what's in it, but I think I heard it being thrown around that it's around $10, but that's still like
We don't
okay, but just
Yeah,
that really should be like the point of that is as something that would be included.
Yeah. It's also, it's not exactly filling the snipper clip space either. Like, okay, Nintendo is having a download only game at launch. You know, instead of being a fun kind of puzzle co-op affair, it's, you know, how do the magnets in the Nintendo Switch 2 work? Or how does the mouse look work? You know, it's a bunch of tech demos, and like I said, closer to the 3DS software than an actual game. Although they do tout that actual games are going to be in this. So they look like, you know, like mini game golf.
Yeah, mini games. Yeah.
Like, so
not necessarily Switch 2 specific, but it looks like amiibos aren't dead, since they're doing amiibos for freaking Street Fighter 6 as well as 4 new amiibos for Tears of the Kingdom. Five, but 4, and then another one coming later because it's oversized for Tears of the Kingdom, and then presumably compatible with the new Hyrule Warriors game.
Right. And I guess on the subject of Hyrule Warriors, yeah, they're doing the Imprisoning Wars, or the Age of Imprisonment, as the formal subtitle is called.
Which certainly it will be nice to learn the names of the sages that were back then, because right now we have Masked Goron, Masked Zora, Masked Rito, and Masked Gerudo, and that's it.
Yeah. Though, interestingly enough, and I didn't see this commentated on, they are partnering with Koei Tecmo, but they're not partnering up with either Omega Force, who's the usual developer of Warriors games, or Team Ninja, who helped out who co-developed the original Hyrule Warriors. No, they're going with the new AAA studio, literally called AAA Studio.
That's interesting.
Right. I honestly
I would have expected them to go with, the same people who did Age of Calamity, since this is clearly spiritually Age of Calamity 2.
You'd think, but they're going with the new AAA studio.
Since it's literally, oh hey, we're doing the Hyrule Warriors game using the same assets as much as possible from the latest Zelda game, to explore a time period in that game that you don't get to find out a whole lot about because of plot reasons.
I guess we found out the plot reason, so they could sell you another game.
Well, that'll depend somewhat on whether this is fully canon, as they're saying it is, or whether it's another... and then the time was changed because we brought guys from the future or something.
Anyway, like I said, other key Nintendo Switch 2 games, because I do want to remind those who are listening that Nintendo also still has Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon ZA, which will be technically Switch 1 titles, but will be enhanced for the Switch 2. As in, if you can, there's no reason to get Metroid Prime 4 on the original Switch, considering that they're touting, full 4K resolution and, 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, all that stuff.
Mouse and controller games on a console? Yeah. Mouse and controller controls on a console game, possibly?
Mouse, yes. They did confirm that. They're bringing back the Metroid Prime 3 controls, more or less. Not 1-to-1, but, Metroid Prime 3 operated with the, the Wiimote.
Yeah, they may also have there will probably have a gyro option too, but controlling it with literally the mouse mode is going to be a possibility.
All right, yeah. I have returned.
Yeah. Anyway, we were just about to get into Kirby Air Riders.
No, that was
Which-
on 0 people's bingo card.
Maybe ant dudes.
Okay,
I saw
one
a lot of people
human.
who were very excited, but not a lot of people who expected it.
People like Kirby's Air Ride. The problem is they got their hopes of getting a new one for so long, they kind of lost faith.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly.
They're about as beaten down as F-Zero fans.
I'd say more. I'd say less beaten down because,
Well, most of them are also other Kirby game fans, so they get those.
Fair.
But anyway, this is going to be Sakurai's first Kirby game in about 20 years. Like, I know he directed the original Kirby's Air Ride, but I don't think that was the last Kirby game he did. Like, I want to say it was like Amazing Mirror, maybe?
I don't have the list in front of me, to be quite honest.
Yeah, nor do I. But I'm like, I honestly don't have a lot to say about Kirby's Air Ride because we didn't get a lot of information on what they're going to be doing. Rather, the modes.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Aside from it's another Kirby's Air Ride game.
Yeah.
Which is admittedly enough for a lot of people to be excited about.
Right. And I get to say, I told you so. I fucking told you so. I called this 100% on Sunday. New 3D Donkey Kong platformer game.
Mm-hmm. I didn't say it wasn't happening. I just said I didn't know.
I thought they said it was about time. Plus, that went along with the rumors about Nintendo trying for a very long time to get a 3D Donkey Kong game off the ground with Vicarious Visions, but it got taken away by the Mario team. And
I heard something about this being done by the people who did Mario Odyssey.
I don't think we have confirmation on that, but just by art style and all that, it's the Mario team, Odyssey team.
I figured something was up when we saw that Donkey Kong has got a full redesign, and I figured they weren't going to give him a full redesign for fucking Kart.
Right. Not only that, but we don't have any of the rare characters showing up.
Aside from maybe Espresso.
I was about to say Asterisk yet.
Yeah. Or they've been so radically redesigned that we don't recognize them. Like, that could have been Candy Kong there. Just
as one of the main villains?
I don't know.
We have no idea what's going on. You know?
Well, she was the female monkey character was in a montage with what seemed to be bosses.
She could be brainwashed, or she could just be angry. That's a very common Nintendo trope. So I'm not taking anything off the table. We don't know who the character roster is going to be outside of a very revamped Donkey Kong, who's looking
he looks
very
really cartoony and in a good way.
He looks like
very expressive.
Yeah, he looks like Donkey Kong 94 Donkey Kong or something like that.
He looks basically like an older version of Donkey Kong Jr. That's the point, because our modern DK is Donkey Kong Jr.
Or that could be Donkey Kong Jr. and we don't know it yet.
Fair.
Like I said, we don't know anything about the plot.
All we know is he does have a bow tie and sometimes wears pants.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he likes punching rocks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the other thing I saw some people commenting on, is that yes, this is a Donkey Kong game and it looks nice as a Donkey Kong game. The gameplay also looks not un-Wario-like, in that you are busting shit up for gold.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair comment, I think. And of course,
we don't know what the actual full plot is, but just as an impression.
Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the premier third-party representative that showed up here, and that's the Duskbloods.
Oh, you mean Bloodborne, Bloodborne 2 with the serial numbers filed off?
Basically.
It is apparently PvPvE multiplayer focused.
Right, I did.
But yes, it is a FromSoft game with a very out of the various FromSoft aesthetics, it's hitting closest to Bloodborne,
I mean,
albeit
for
with a
fuck's
little bit
sake.
more vampires and steampunk.
Yeah,
The
well, for
reaction
fuck's-
team the reaction stream I was watching afterwards, the streamer was a huge Bloodborne fan. I thought she was going to have a stroke.
I thought it was Bloodborne at first because we're in the age where Sony's licensing out its IPs to Namco Bandai
Mhm.
I
already.
think the internet would have exploded if it was either a Bloodborne remake or just straight up a Bloodborne 2.
Yeah, but no, it's the Dusk Bloods,
Yes.
which is like the serial numbers are barely filed off here.
Yeah, I was about to say, you can see the file marks, bro.
Well, it's no different than what they did with Dark Souls, Demon Souls.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Dark Souls was the spiritual follow-up to, Demon Souls. It even has souls in the title.
Yeah.
So this is nothing.
So clearly the actual genre is not Soulsborne, but Soul's Blood.
Right. Maybe.
I'm kidding, but yeah.
It's more, we don't know how deep the multiplayer is running here. Like, it could be it sounds something a bit fresh from software, honestly. And it's currently going to be exclusive to the Nintendo Switch 2. We don't know if that's a time exclusive. I mean, Nintendo's not going to say, considering it's launching in 2026.
I would be shocked if it was more than a year exclusive.
Yeah. And this is even scratching the third-party stuff, which we're getting from Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, which I'm guessing is the entire package.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade.
I don't like Final Fantasy VII.
Duly noted. Borderlands 4, fuck you, Randy.
Yeah.
Star Wars Outlaws. Of all the Ubisoft sandbox, why that one?
Honestly, I didn't even notice that one. Like, I just totally glazed over for that.
We've got some vague sports commitments.
We know how that worked looking at the Wii U sports library and the Switch sports library.
Yeah, they didn't even have gameplay. But EA Sports FC 2026, Madden NFL 2026, maybe. They didn't announce the years, guys.
Yeah.
Ditto the 2K representatives. They just said WWE 2K and NBA 2K are coming. Hopefully with the added horsepowers, those aren't titanic pieces of shit like they were on the Switch 1. In terms of the indie representatives, the big one seems to be Hades 2.
That's a popular one.
Yep. Witchbrook, which got unveiled at the Nintendo Switch 1 Direct. Hollow Knight Silksong is allegedly still alive.
I was about to say, I believe when I fucking see it.
Some people, we're very weirdly, not weirdly, but we're very excited for that, and also for Deltarune First 4. Yeah, I don't know how many more it's going.
7 chapters.
Okay, so first half.
Right. I saw a lot of excitement over Deltarune because it's Deltarune.
Yeah.
Not that it was not going to be on the Switch 2, but
yeah, another
I
big
think
one.
We're getting 2 new chapters.
Yes.
3 and 4 are dropping together at about the same time as the Switch 2 launch.
No, they are dropping at the Switch 2 launch.
They are also dropping on other things, though. So
I don't know if there might be an exclusivity window there. So, be wary. Anyway, the Hitman developers showcased, well, Hitman, but also re-announced Project 007. It's been about 4 years since they announced that they had acquired the rights to James Bond in video game form.
Honestly,
So,
I forgot they had them.
Yeah, that I was about to say. That's just to primarily remind you that they have those, and also kind of an invocation of the legacy of GoldenEye there, because this is like the first teaser trailer of Project 007 we've seen. I said, there's more things here like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. Shadow Labyrinth is coming to the Switch 2 as well. Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 is getting a Switch 2 edition. Split Fictions appearing at the launch. J.K. Rowling's Transphobia is getting a Switch 2 edition.
Yeah.
Fuck her.
Unfortunately, there's no killing it.
Seemingly not.
I will not go off on a thing about redoing the whole fucking story with new actors who haven't grown up to not like her.
Anyway, I could go on, but we should probably wrap up this conversation because we're starting to hit up against MSP time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, final thoughts on the Switch 2?
A lot of question marks, honestly. What we're looking at power-wise.
Right. Well, I suppose those are going to get answered in a couple months because it's releasing on June 5th.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I'm generally optimistic, although I wish there was a version that didn't have the red and blue Joy-Cons at launch because I am not a huge fan of that thing, but whatever.
I hope we get different colors.
Yeah, and I'm not thrilled about how expensive the games are.
Yeah.
But
I'm like, even if I was in the mood, I'd probably go buy a Steam Deck because I have a very big Steam library and, this is comparable pricing here.
I was going to be getting a Steam Deck, but then I needed a new laptop.
I know how that goes. Anyway, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. So coming up on the week ahead, on Friday, April 4th, we'll be welcoming Jose Donaire of Tetsura Games. So they're one of those outfits that does the boutique physical games releases, but for Europe. Specializing, I think, for Spain. I don't know how far the territory is, but that's one of the things we'll ask them. But they also do game publishing as well. So it can be a bit hard to separate the games that they just do the physical edition for and the games that they fully published. But some of the games that they're fully publishing are like Spirit of the North 2. I'm not sure if they did that with Uramaki Generation or not. I think they're doing that with Kimono Heroes. Likewise, I think Lisa Definitive Edition's just physical copy. Certainly a thing to ask them on Friday. And we do have a new episode of MSP planned as well. And coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews for Nobody Nowhere, Damn, Takeover, and Slain, Back from Hell. So, until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.